Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. Go to CarrieLutz.com and sign up for 30 free micro trainings on financial survival.
1490 WGCH. This is Carrie Lutz. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. Back with me again for our weekly sojourn into the precious metals markets is Ranting Andy Hoffman. Andy, welcome back and Happy New Year.
And the same to you.
Hey, well, thank you. And we're into 2012. Everything's hitting the fan already. And one of our listeners, what was his name? Bob from LINY. So if I infer that correctly, he's from Long Island, New York, your home area. He wants to know if there's such a difference between paper silver and physical silver, and how come there's no imbalance in the supply of silver? In other words, how come you can go to virtually any source, reputable source, and buy silver at the current market price? And that's basically the question.
Right. Well, it's a good question. And given my background and the fact that I work for a precious metals dealer, I think I can give a good answer. First off, I'll say that you cannot buy silver at the current spot price. There are varying premiums that you'll pay depending on what product you get, but they're anywhere between 5 and 15% depending on the size, the product, the method of payment. So in that matter, there's been a separation between gold and silver, between physical and paper for some time. In fact, during the periods of extreme demand, which we've seen both on the upside and downside, those premiums have not only blown out, but we've seen shortages. We saw in May, when silver went over $50 or to $50, we saw premiums go to 25% or more. We also saw the same kind of thing in September when the cartel attacked right after Labor Day and got silver briefly under $30. We saw massive orders, some of our biggest days in 20 years, and rising premiums. So from that matter, I'd say certainly there's a difference between the price that you see on the screen and what you actually buy it. And actually, if you look at today's piece, it's not even released yet. It'll probably be out in the next hour or two. I'm referring to the topic is the closed-end fund, the Sprott Physical Silver Trust, ticker PSLV, which, I mean, I know these guys very well. I'm an expert on these closed-end funds. I've been following them for a decade. The Sprott Silver Trust has traded maybe a 15 to 18% premium for years. It blew out in the last week to 32%, which is where it's sitting right now. And I've spoken to the principals there and, done all the work I can do. And the only answer I can say is that people who want to take delivery of real silver, which you can do through the physical Sprott Trust, don't believe that there's enough out there. And this is one of the few ways that they can get to it.
Right. And other vehicles, closed-end funds like CEF and Silver Bullion Trust, obviously not trading at those types of premiums. It's rather remarkable that it's over 30%, and you could buy physical from various sources. I don't know what the premiums are now, 10 to 20%, somewhere around there, and yet they're getting 30. So it sounds like a good arbitrage play if you're into such machinations.
No, but there's the wrinkle that's being missed here. The CEF and the gold, the Central Gold Trust and the Silver Bullion Trust you're referring to, those are run by the Spicer family. Those are not redeemable for right. Gold and silver. So those always trade at very low premiums. I shouldn't say always. In the last year, since what I call D-Day, about 15 months ago, they traded probably 5 to 15% premium, sometimes higher. Now they're consistently trading those funds anywhere between a 1% premium and 8 or 9%. But they are not redeemable for metal. And the difference is that the Sprott funds are. Now, the FIZ, PHYS, which is the Sprott Gold Fund, I'll tell you what the premium is right now. It is about 7%. So while it is higher than the other ones, I don't think there's as much worry that you couldn't go in the market and buy some size of gold now. However, with silver, this is one of the only ways you can actually buy silver. And so that's why that you have the 30% premium.
Right. Yeah, which is astounding because, like you say, I've been watching it for the past year. It's been 17, 18%. And that's probably what keeps the big guys from raiding the fund, is the convertibility aspect of it, that you can actually get your hands on the metal. And he's trying to buy more metal as well. It seems like he's meeting a little resistance on that score, isn't he?
Absolutely. Him and Stefan Spicer, for that matter, who runs the central fund, they have a lot of things to worry about, particularly, well, one, they have to worry about dilution, particularly when you get to these kind of premiums, but you also have to worry about actually getting delivery. And the last time that they did a deal, the Sprott Silver Trust, was about November of last year, meaning 14 months ago. It took over 2 months to get the silver delivered. And a lot of the silver they got ultimately was silver that was poured after they bought it, meaning it didn't exist. So they are nervous about trying to take on a commitment for, I don't know, $500 million, $1 billion. When keep in mind the estimated amount of silver that's above ground in the entire world, and I'm talking about entire world, is less than 1 billion ounces. So, they have a shelf offering for 5% of all that silver in the world. And that 30% premium is telling me that a lot of that stuff is not for sale.
Yeah, it really, really interesting is that the masters of illusion on Wall Street can make people believe that the price is low, so there's no shortage. In reality, it seems that the supply is tight. We saw 100-ounce bars run out a few months ago. Now there appear to be an ample supply of it, but the division between the paper market and the physical market is just becoming more and more apparent by the day.
Yeah, I put a piece in my piece today. It's a guy named Brother John. He's one of our good team, and I actually have not met him, but some of his stuff keeps coming to my attention. And there's a piece there where the guy does the analysis of how much actual paper silver trades compared to the physical, and it's like 16,000% more paper silver trades than physical, whereas crude oil, which is a far bigger market, only 20% of all the physical oil trades in the paper market. So you can see it's a completely rigged market run totally by paper. We've seen shortages when silver has gone too high, when it's gone too low. We're going to see the same thing happen in the coming months. And eventually, I believe that the entire COMEX future structure, not just for gold and silver, is going to be completely gone at some point in the future.
Well, it's fractional reserve banking at its worst. At the Silver Summit, Jeff Christian said, hey, it's not leveraged 100 ounces to 1. During the day, when the contracts are flying before the close of business, it could be 400 to 1. And that, I think he was trying to make the argument that, hey, there's no shortage of silver, there's plenty, come and get it. But I think people were blown away by his admission that it's really leveraged 400 to 1. It just depends on the time of day that you happen to look at the tape.
Yeah, well, my views on him. And honestly, I don't get, he's one of these people that people give way too much credit to him for knowing. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He really is an idiot. He's just an inside guy. He's the face of something. I can't even tell what he's the face of because no one reads the CPM report to listen to what the demand for silver is. So, it's just beware in this business. There's a lot of people out there giving misleading information.
Yeah, well, that's why a man's got to know what his limitations are when it comes to really giving an analysis of the underlying forces that are making the market and creating the price. I defer to guys like you who have your hand on the pulse. Did you catch that article in Zero Hedge, which talked about the 30% premium on Sprott, but also talked about backwardation? I think it was on the March contract, which is generally a humongously bullish sign.
Yeah, and a friend of mine said today that as we speak, we're not actually in backwardization. It's a couple of cents of contango, but it's been back and forth between contango and backwardization over the last few years, both gold and silver. Silver was in heavy backwardization for some time. Gold has been close to it. And, it goes off and on anytime. The fact is, even when it's not, we're talking about very, very low contango premiums for future months right now. And, And now we're seeing this negative lease rate come on and off all the time, which is the most incredible concept I've ever heard. Actually paying people to take your silver and sell it. And it makes no sense to me at all, other than I'd say it was just simply cartel manipulation, but it's more than that, because it's just out there, this ridiculous thing that makes no sense. And, the fact is, you can't trust any of the numbers that are put out to you by anything that's official or semi-official.
Right. And I wish they would pay me to sell their silver. I could do a good job of it, because I'd go right over to you guys. And in fact, I wouldn't even take possession. I'd just say, write me a check, guys, Miles Franklin, because here's your silver. But they haven't approached me yet. But I don't know. Maybe if you could give me the guy's email address, I'll get in touch and start a new career here.
Yeah, it's that easy, right?
Yeah, it's absurd. I mean, it's really absurd. That is purely irrational. It can't really exist except in some manipulative scheme that I don't know what they're thinking here. That's what I keep saying. I don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah. Well, what I've been writing about more and more lately is the just incredible lack of, I don't even know if the word is care about the things that are going on. It's like there's an apathy that's going on in this country, and I can't speak for all the other countries, although I do get emails around the world and people say similar things. But when I think about the debt debacle in this country 4 months ago and how incredible it was, how we got downgraded by S&P, and just over a $400 billion increase from 14.2 to 14.6. Well, today we've breached 15.2. There's not an article out there. We're going to be 16.4 tomorrow. No one cares. Remember, Greece was going to destroy the world? Well, Greece is as bad now as it was, maybe 10 times worse. All of a sudden, nothing, no talk about it. So I'm not sure I understand how the propaganda / apathy has exponentially increased over a period of 4 or 6 months, but it really has.
It's reminiscent of the book by Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. I think there must be a new supply of drugs on the market, a real cheap drug that just turns off your rational ability, which most drugs do anyway. I guess there's some that supposedly cognitive enhancers, but I think the world is drugged out, not so much on a physical drug, on headlines, on the news cycle, and they become numb to it. And it's like, what is $15.2 trillion anyway, Andy? Can you picture that? Because I can't. I mean, I know it's bad. I know we're in dire straits. I mean, you and I are on the same channel there. But if you're like Joe Sixpack, he goes to his job, he's got a couple kids in school. He's just trying to get through the day. It's like he doesn't want to know about it. And I think it's this mass denial around the world in every country where I can't do anything about it. Even if I had some liquid money, I don't know what I would do, some liquid funds. And you know what? I'm just going to go watch American Idol or, Kitchen Nightmares or whatever so-called reality TV show there is. And I'm just not going to worry about it anymore. And this is what they count on, right? This is the atmosphere they cultivated.
Well, it's become a welfare society where something like 70% of people in society are getting something from the government. 15% are getting food stamps alone, to the point where, like you said, what's the point? I mean, everyone knows that things are getting worse. Real estate jobs, the social breakdown, all that is all moving in the same direction. I like me talking about people buy gold, but if you don't have money, why would you want to hear that? I mean, you can't buy gold. And the other thing is, these markets have been so destroyed by rigging, by all the PPT and the ESF and the cartel, to the point where no one has any idea when they see markets move what it means. The things that worked, that had correlations years ago, have none now. So to the point where people, they don't understand the news that's coming out. They don't understand the impact on markets around them. And like you said, most people don't have that much anymore. And as a result, they really don't want to get involved.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because the other market that's been destroyed is the actual price discovery market of the dollar and interest rates. And people really don't have a clue what anything is worth anymore, you know, because the value of the dollar and the value of all currencies is so erratic. I mean, we know it's inflating. You know, we can look at Williams' shadow stats and know 13%, but most people don't have the inclination to find out, but they sense down deep there's something really, really wrong. And unfortunately, they're gonna find out that they were right. And even if you don't have much money, you know, probably can sell something, get rid of something, and buy some physical as an insurance policy. Because I tell my friends, I said, look, if you thought there was a 1 in 10 chance you were going to die in the next 10 years, would you buy life insurance, assuming you could get it? And they say, oh, yeah, definitely. Well, if I tell you there's a 1 in 3 chance that the monetary system is going to collapse in the next 3 years, would you go out and buy insurance on that? And then all of a sudden, like a light bulb goes off in their minds, because I said, I can't guarantee it's going to happen. To me, it's as clear as the nose on your face it's going to, but you're in a position where you can purchase an insurance policy against it, assuming you have something that you can liquidate and put some money into. And then they start thinking in those terms of what can go wrong.
But it's really hard to get rid of age-old, I don't know, use stereotypes is the word, just dogma. And the dogma, for instance, that insurance from an insurance company is safe, when look what happened 3 years ago. AIG was the biggest insurance company. Hartford Life almost went under. Half of them are insolvent now because their pension assumptions for interest rate gains are so high compared to what they have. Yet people still believe that insurance companies are a way to save yourself when they're being hurt most by what's going on right now. Whereas, of course, gold has had 5,000 years of being an insurance policy, but for the last 20 years, it has been drilled into people's head that it's just a piece of rock.
Yeah, it's a barbarous relic, right? And you know what's funny is when you talk about the dependency on the government, that such a large percentage. I mean, I don't know about you, but if my kid came home, graduated from college, and said, Dad, I got the best job at the IRS. You know, it's benefits, man, retirement, pension. I'd want to disown them, man. I would say, like, get out of here. That's not what I taught you. You know, I taught you to, like, stay away from those people. They're evil, and nothing good is going to come from your life. But yet, for a large portion of the population now, a government job is a ticket to the good life. And that is really nauseating to me.
Well, it's the largest employer in the country. It pays higher than the private sector right now. I'm thinking of a neighbor of mine, very smart woman, just got offered a very lucrative accounting job with Fannie Mae. Very lucrative, to the point where they want to move her across the country. And I'm thinking, well, I know where the money comes from. They print it, but what could they possibly need these high talented, educated accountants for, when it doesn't matter anyway? No one cares what they do. No one pays attention. It's all now a government agency where even their debt is off balance sheet. It's $5 trillion, by the way, off balance sheet, just because the government says so. And yet, that's what's considered a lucrative job. I don't know anyone else getting those kind of offers.
Yeah, I guess they need somebody to sign the opinion letter that everything they're doing, right?
Robo sign it, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one day about my past as a robo signer. You'll get a kick out of it. But I was the best, because I finally found an application that being left-handed was an asset, was really made me much more efficient. But anyways,
well, I'm left-handed, so I should be a robo signer.
Hey, yeah. it's a lefty's world, man. I'm telling you, if you see an ad for robo-signers, you're a natural.
I'm just worried that the NDAA Defense Act will consider lefties terrorists, since it's about that arbitrary right now.
Yeah, well, it's 15%, 12% of the population, right? Right. They could be dissidents, and I think they'll be calling us refuseniks shortly, just the same kind of language in the old Soviet Union before it collapsed, and the whole thing. But as one guy sent the thing to me, I'm 60, man, I'm so depressed. What am I going to do? I've got some silver. I said, look, this is what's probably going to happen, but it might not. But we're pretty convinced it will. In the meantime, you have absolutely no control when and if it's going to happen. go live your life, be with your family, have fun, and don't worry about this. Just prepare as best you can. But it's nothing that you should be using to make yourself feel bad or upset, because it's history. It happens, and we do the best we can with what's thrown at us, you know?
Yeah, the most important thing, the most important advice I can give to anyone is to lower your standards regarding your standard of living. Just make it so that if things do get difficult, you haven't put yourself in a deep hole. And, live with not taking 5 vacations a year. Take 1 vacation a year, or just remodel your house instead of taking expensive vacations. Who knows?
Yeah, that's good advice. I did a little experiment back in 2009 where they were still giving large credit lines. So I took it off my card, knowing I could pay for it, and I bought gold with it. And because I wanted to, plus I had like 9 months or 12 months interest free. So it'd be crazy not to. And the first year it was up about 18%, I think, right, in 2009. And it's gone up, it's basically I paid high 800s, low 900s. And look at it now, man. I've pretty much paid the thing off. And with the interest and everything else, I'm so far ahead that it doesn't matter. So a little sensible leverage. If you could refinance your mortgage at these rates, take the difference of what you're paying monthly, buy some metal with it. I call it reverse Gresham's law, using the bad money to acquire good money. So when the bad money becomes worthless, you're holding the good stuff. And
well, as long as you do it in a sensible way, because I get those questions all the time. Should I borrow money because if there's hyperinflation, that means all the debts will be wiped away? I said, yes, that's true. But before you it may take longer than you think. And if you're in debt, you're going to have to pay it back. So be very careful with leverage.
Yeah, well, luckily the stigma surrounding bankruptcy and leaving the country, leaving Dodge, getting out of Dodge isn't what it once used to be. But yeah, sensible leverage where you have to be able to service the debt and know that you're going to be able to service it. And then, a little bit could go a long way. Anyway, and where do we find you again?
MilesFranklin.com.
All right. And if anybody's got any questions, next show we're going to take listener questions. So if you want to know something from us about the markets, about the metals or the economy, whatever the rigging of the markets, anything you want to know, email KL@KerryLutz.com. That's KL@KerryLutz.com, or leave a voicemail on the hotline 347-460-LUTZ, 347-460-LUTZ. Andy, we'll catch you next week. As always, a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.